What's that one embarrassing moment that keeps coming back to haunt you? When I was in grade 8 we had to give a presentation on a Greek god. I chose to do my project on Zeus. However, I was nervous and for some reason referred to him as Zeus, Jesus with a Z. The presentation was like 8 minutes long and I said it wrong countless times. It wasn't until I finished the presentation a kid asked, "You do know it's pronounced Zeus, right?" Jesus Christ, I'm dead. It's Jason Bourne. Freezing up in the middle of a best man speech. My brain just went completely blank. I had never had a problem with stage fright before, so it caught me off guard and made it worse. Mine was like 10 minutes long. People kept looking at their watches. I don't know what I was thinking. I still recoil in embarrassment, but also, I was just a kid asked to be best man for a wedding where my 2 friends weren't even 21 yet either. We were all kids. I just want that memory to go away. I was at the airport one time, and during the security check-in, one of that sappy PL stuck his hand out in front of me. I proceeded to give him a high five thinking he's trying to be friendly, only to realize that he meant for me to wait in line. Feeling red-faced thinking at its RN. I once tried to shake a random girl's hand who was trying to hold the elevator door open for me. Got called out on it by another girl who witnessed it and spent the rest of the elevator ride very embarrassed. One time when I was in college, the showers on my male-only dorm floor weren't working, so I had to walk down to 2 floors to shower because each floor alternated between a boys and girls floor. Well, when I was done showering I walked back to my room and opened my door, only things didn't look quite right. The beds were arranged differently, the decorations were different. Then I looked to my right, and there's a very shocked looking girl sitting in bed reading a book. I didn't go up enough floors. I said crap sorry and closed the door and rushed back to my room. Never saw her again. One time when I was in a college class I was wearing a pullover sweatshirt and I got hot and wanted to take it off. I was at the top of an auditorium style classroom. I stood up and pulled it off, but my practically entire shirt ended up coming off with it. My professor had been facing the board and turned around right as I basically had my shirt off and raised above my head, struggling to get out of the pullover. Professor got startled and yelped a bit, said he didn't know what I was doing. Whole class laughed. Told the guy I had met his son, it was his younger brother I had met. Felt like an asshole. Unbuckled my belt at the movies because I was uncomfortable. Was with my girlfriend. Forgot it was unbuckled when I stood up, so while standing I buckled it. When I looked up an older couple was giving us bad looks. I don't remember what film it was, hoping it wasn't some Pixar movie or something. I always do the thanks you too thing at the movies when the attendant takes my ticket and tells me to enjoy the show. I swear elevators are the best environments for awkwardness, haha. My middle school did a program where a bunch of Japanese students came to visit our school for a couple weeks. I was assigned as a buddy to show someone around and stuff, and at the end of their visit here, they all took a trip to New York City. Only a few of the American students came along, but I was among them. The Japanese teachers wanted to be inclusive, so they took the mic that the bus driver uses to make announcements and kind of like awkwardly interviewed each of us in broken English, though the students didn't seem all that interested. When it was my turn, I got the typical "what do you like to do?" which I tried to shut down quickly with a simple "oh, I'm in choir. I like to sing sometimes." "Oh, why don't you sing for us?" And suddenly, the mic is in my hand. I really am not one for singing solos, especially in front of a bus full of students who probably don't know what the frick is going on. I guess the teacher picked up on this, so she encouraged me to sing a Christmas song, because those are the only songs that the kids would be able to sing along to in English. So I'm thinking, okay, it won't be too bad if they all join in, right? So I start. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Silence. I painfully sing the entire song, a cappella, completely solo, all eyes on me. Finally, the pain ends, and I crumble into my seat as awkward polite applause ensues. But this wasn't enough for the teacher. She wanted this to be a participatory event, and she didn't care who had to suffer in order to make that happen. So what does she do? Okay, try again, but this time everyone sing along. I pray for it to be a dream. But somehow, the mic is in my hand yet again, her expecting eyes upon me. At this point, all dignity is lost, so I figure why not. Again, I start the song. And again, I sing it completely alone. My god, this is a nightmare, you poor wee thing. So I was interviewing for a job in the BO industry early on in my career, and it was a panel interview with about 10 people. They asked me what would set me apart from other candidates, so I went into the normal spiel about being a fast learner and easily cross-training in multiple areas. As soon as I said that, one of the guys laughed, and a few jaws dropped, and I quickly realized that instead of saying cross-training, I said cross-dressing. What sets me apart from other candidates? Cross-dressing. I did not get the job. This sounds like a Cards Against Humanity card. LMAO. Op only fricked up because he made it a frick up. He should have doubled down. Cross-dressing proves that I'm adaptable, confident, and non-judgmental. I know what I want, I know what I have to do, and I make the situation work. Why are you laughing? What do you have against cross-dressers? I was doing a stupid cleanse diet that involved drinking large amounts of psyllium husk powder. After 4 days without a bowel movement, I ended up fainting on the toilet while straining to squeeze out a huge log of crap. My younger brother heard me falling and hitting my head against the bathtub. He rushed in to find me passed out on the floor, naked with crap smeared between my legs and all down the front of the toilet. This was years ago, and my brother and I can laugh at it now, but the memory still sneaks up on me at night when I'm trying to get to sleep. You ever crap so hard you launch yourself off the toilet and knock yourself unconscious? Thin host has. When I was 13, I got my first bikini swimsuit. The top didn't have a strap on the neck or anything but just stretched across my chest. I went swimming one day with my cousins while on vacation at my grandmother's house. I swam all day long and the bikini stayed in place just as it should. We packed up, and I threw on a t-shirt over my swimsuit for the ride home. Grandma did not go swimming with us, and was at home eating popcorn at her table when we came in. There were uncles, aunts, and older cousins at the table with her. When she saw me in my t-shirt, she jokingly asked if that was all I was wearing. I said nope and proudly pulled my t-shirt over my entire chest to show her I had on a swimsuit. I watched as her face changed to shock, and she choked on her popcorn. I looked down, and what do you know, my freaking top had slid beneath my boobs, exposing them and making them stick sort of straight out, because the top was right under them. Everyone at the table just died laughing, all with red faces, putting their heads down, and pounding the table howling with laughter. So yeah, I flashed my grandma and some relatives with my boobs. I was horsing around in a public pool with a group of friends and planned to do an elaborate jump/dive thing with my boyfriend kind of throwing me in the air, his hands under my feet and pushing up. I shouted "look at me" right before being thrown in the air. The force of being pushed up through the water pushed my bikini top down. So basically I shouted "look at me," then flashed all my friends and a bunch of strangers. I'm positively dying of laughter in the break room at work now. I was starting out as a teacher in this English course, and one day I had a bad diarrhea in the short break between 2 classes. All of my colleagues were gathered in the teacher's room, waiting for the next class to start. I entered the bathroom connected to the room to relieve myself, and as I was finished I was embarrassed of opening the door to the room and let everybody smell the reminiscent odor. So I had the brilliant idea of opening the glass window of the bathroom to let the wind circulate a little before opening the door. The window was stuck, and as I forced it, it fell, breaking in a million pieces on the floor. Everybody heard the noise and knocked on the door. I had to open it, and they not only smelled the horrible diarrhea, but also figured out my attempt to open the window to get rid of it. Lol. It was so humiliating. Flush early, flush often. The old courtesy flush. I was taking a bus home from the beach years ago. When I got close to my stop, I walked to the front of the bus so I would be ready to get off. I was wearing a denim skirt that was a bit loose, but I had been wearing it all day without a problem. Well, the denim had gotten a little wet at the beach, which made it heavier, and it sort of stretched out a bit while I sat during this 2-hour bus ride. So, as I'm standing in the front of this crowded bus with my hands full of my belongings, I can feel my skirt begin to slide down. I didn't have any hands free to grab it and nothing to lean against to hold it up, so it fell all the way to the floor. The passengers around me just stared, as if they were in shock. This was pre-everyone glued to their phone days. I stood there in my granny panties, wanting to cry, but I started laughing like a maniac instead. I must have looked like a total nut job. I stopped wearing skirts after that. Dresses are safer. Feo, I love how you started laughing. I was mortified. In the moment I figured if I laughed, I had the upper hand and people wouldn't make fun of me. Panic logic is silly lol. When I was in first grade, I had just recently moved to Oklahoma. My class was doing a showcase for the school assembly in 2 weeks. We were going to do some line dancing, and I was paired up with a boy I really liked for part of the routine. I practiced like a maniac in an attempt to assimilate to my new country classmates' way of life. I guess I had forgotten to give a note to my parents saying that they wanted us to wear cowboy boots for the performance. I showed up to the showcase in flip-flops. The partner section starts happening and I'm kicking my legs like I'm a rocket. My flip-flop flies off into the crowd and hits an older kid in the face. I immediately stop in the middle, but the people behind me didn't get the memo that I launched a projectile into the crowd. The person behind me runs into me and falls into the crowd. This has a domino effect and causes a mini pile-up of 7-year-olds. I hobble off the stage into the bathroom with only one flip-flop. I cried while I waited for my teacher to give me back my shoe. My parents have a video of my first and only ballet recital when I was 3. One of the other little girls smacked me in the nose by accident, so I immediately stopped and started bawling, which caused someone else to bump into me and also created a domino effect of 3-year-olds. Then you can see my mom run up and lift me off the stage, still bawling. I'm so glad we no longer have a working VCR for my parents to replay that humiliation on. Oh, don't worry, they have players that can take video from tape and burn it to DVD. Your humiliation has some potential. Yet. I was working at the flower department at a grocery store. It's Mother's Day, one of the busiest days for flower shops. End of day. I'm tired, sweaty, and I kinda hate flowers at this point. Guy comes in, we are closing in 10, and I'm like the audacity internally, but I paste a smile on my face and ask how I can help. He apologizes for being so last minute, and I shake off any frustration I'm feeling. People work and crap and maybe he just hasn't had time. It's okay. He asks for something nice, but low budget. All the nice stuff is long gone, but still I'll do what I can. He says fix me up something nice, like I spent more than I can. I have a soft heart. I'll hook him up. I say sure, I'll make it look like it cost you an arm and a leg. Haha. He holds up a stump where an arm usually resides and says at least an arm anyway, waving it at me. And then I died. And then there was a time I weighed my boob in chemistry class and got busted, and the whole class saw me. But I think the stump is the worst. Sounds like the guy had a good sense of humor about it. The boob one is hilarious, though. Yeah, but I can understand why it weighs on her mind so much. One time in college I walked right out of a presentation I gave without taking questions. I genuinely forgot to ask or answer. Honestly, that's a power move. Frick your questions. I just told you everything. No further research is required in the field. Just started dating this girl. She's half Korean. I go to her parents' Korean church. The whole way there they were explaining how I was going to be greeted by the pastor and I was supposed to be as respectful as possible. Well, seeing that he was Korean, he had quite the accent. He greeted those in front of me. Welcome, welcome. My dumbass thought he was saying where from. So in front of the church and my GF parents, of whom I just had met, I got up and yelled Nick Purvis Bowie Maryland. He looked extremely confused, didn't bow, just stared at me, and let's just say her parents weren't super hyped. That's some rush hour type crap. Mayo. Nick Purvis did not understand the words that were coming out of his mouth. I was a hibachi server. We use these little bottles to squirt sake into people's mouths. I had a party of like 20 people. After the show and everything, the owner goes up to the table and asks them if they had a good time. One of the customers jokingly says, I don't think we got enough sake. Owner then hands me 2 bottles and asks me to go back to the kitchen to fill them with sake. So I run back to the kitchen and see 2 boxes of shochikube sake. One of them has Sharpie writing in Chinese all over it. This will become important in a moment. So I randomly pick a box of sake to fill the squirt bottles with, and the manager and I ask them who wants more sake. Several people kind of cheer because they are hammered, so the owner starts rainbowing sake into one person's mouth while I do the same to another patron. Suddenly the patron's eyes go wide just as I notice something strange. Under the harsh lighting, the liquid I'm squirting into this young woman's mouth is glistening. It also looks quite shiny running down her face and onto the front of her sundress. So I stop spraying sake at her as she swallows and says, "Ooh, what the hell was that?" It was vegetable oil. The Chinese writing said vegetable oil. I do not read Chinese. That's absolutely hilarious. I was about 13, into shock humor and all that, just being inappropriate, and in trying to make a friend uncomfortable, said his mom had nice tits. He laughed it off. Months later, maybe a year or more, I visit his house with him to stay the night. He introduces me as the friend who said you have nice tits. Easily the worst first impression I've ever made, and she laughed about it and said thanks, but a lesson was learned, and I'm a better man for it. She knew she had nice tits. Was a field computer tech when I was younger, at a client site, focused on my work when someone behind me says, "Hey there, how you doing today?" And without looking I reply, "Welp, alive and kicking, I suppose that's what matters." Then turn around to see a guy in a wheelchair with no legs, who smiles and says, "Yep, I guess that is important." Usually people with conditions like that have a good sense of humor about it though. Went to the gym and felt the urge to poo, probably due to the pre-workout. Did my business cleaned up and proceeded to run my best mile ever on the treadmill. Noticed I was getting a lot of stares and shrugged it off until I noticed some toilet paper on the ground. That's weird, I thought. Turns out I had a bunch of toilet paper in my shorts the whole time. Needless to say, I moved to a different country and started a new life. For a second I thought people were looking at you because you were making brown foam back there after running so fast and having previously taken a crap. I have multiple memories coming back to me when I'm working out. Kinda ruins the workout, lol. The one memory that comes back to me the most is when I was in middle school. A group of girls that disliked me got a hold of my phone number and texted me as my crush. We texted all day after school and she wanted to hang out with me, but I told her I can't because of homework or something dumb. So we planned that we hang out the next day and we would meet at the park. The next day I start to get ready and I go to the park and I waited for 3 hours and she never showed up. I messaged her and I wasn't getting a response, so I just ended up going home, disappointed and mad at myself. When I go back to school, a group of girls came up to me and said, "Has a nice date." And I was shocked, wondering how they knew, and then they showed me pictures they took of me just sitting on the bench alone and making fun of how stupid I looked. That's so mean. I'm sorry that happened to you. Not your fault though. I hope those girls look back and cringe at the memory too. Thank you. I've learned a lot that day. Always make sure you are texting the right person. Hopefully, haha, I do hope they stopped acting like that and became beta people. One day in middle school, I walked into my science class to see we all had a small whiteboard on our desks for an activity for the day. Before class started, my friend and I started writing different kick me type signs on them for fun. Then, class started but we kept writing them and showing them to each other. I wrote one and too loudly whispered "ps" to get my friend's attention, then held up my sign to him which said, "My brain is in my butt." Since I was too loud, it caught the teacher's attention. She saw my board, then announced loudly, "Yeah, well, according to your grades, that's probably true." Oh my god. So I was like 14 or 15 at a swim meet. I swam a lot. And one of the older guys, who is like the comical dude of the older kids, comes up to our tent and I had my back turned. He says, "Hey everyone, how's it going?" And I somewhat but not clearly jokingly say, "Oh, shut up." Then I turn to face him and realize I've just told my other teammate's father, a prominent judge in the city I lived in, to shut up. To make it worse, I apologized profusely but didn't explain that I thought he was someone else. Haunts me to this day. I wouldn't sweat this one. At work, he was a judge. But at a swim meet, he was just another guy, relaxing and enjoying the activity. I'm sure when you apologized like you did, he realized what a respectful and responsible person you are. Judges are good at reading people. Finished a phone call to my not so friendly boss with goodbye, love you. Couldn't look him in the eye for weeks. That probably felt nice to hear. I was being really cocky with a group of friends, turned around dramatically, and ran right into a pole. Classic. When I was in 3rd grade I had just read Rumpelstiltskin, spelling, when he made his deal with the princess, that she could have her baby back so long, if she remembered her name. He got so mad that she remembered that he loudly proclaimed, "Ah, the devil told you." He even shook his fist. It was truly dramatic. Fast forward to the end of the day, the teacher let us play Heads Up 7 Up. I was one of the pickers and stood at the front. When a classmate of mine guessed me correctly for whatever reason I loudly yelled, "Ah, the devil told you." Every single one of my classmates were howling with laughter. I wasn't trying to be funny or weird, my brain just stroked out for a second, and I quoted an obscure ass book from our class library. Kids saw me in the halls, and would yell that at me and bust up laughing. I wanted to disappear so badly. You shouldn't feel embarrassed by this, it's awesome. 7th grade, truth or dare, was dared to ask out a girl in our friend group that I had a huge crush on. Would be my first date ever. Totally psyched myself up, planned it out, and was going to ask her later at school. Somehow or another she heard about it before I even had the chance and she goes, "Please, please, please, don't ask me out." I remember that moment a lot more than I'd like. Honestly, that's way better than asking and being embarrassed in front of everyone. I'll never forget in middle school everyone psyched this kid up to ask his crush out. He asked his friend at the time to go get the girl and bring her over during lunch like a wingman. Instead his friend went over and asked the girl out himself, and the girl said yes. LMFAO, to this day still the craziest crap I've ever seen play out. Classic kid betrayal. So I'm black and was in a relationship with a white person from South Oklahoma. Her friends were from a small ghetto town and we went to a BBQ there. They were playing some popular hip hop songs and told me to connect my phone to the speaker for a while. I don't know what possessed me, but I felt compelled to also play hip hop because I was the only black person there. I hopped on Spotify and played the most raunchy gangster rap that I've literally never heard of in my life. It was uncomfortably ghetto, and I just sat there head bobbing like it was my jam. Everyone was low-key like WTF, but I stuck with it for an hour. Y'all, I'll listen to Kevin Gates at most, but Ariana Grande on repeat. Why did I stereotype myself into playing that hood crap? I'll never know. Cringe/shudder. Reminds me of the time I went to karaoke after a coworker invited me. It was one of those places where it's just small individual rooms for your group of friends. I didn't know anyone there but my coworker. The whole time they're singing the most random white people music, a French opera song, Pearl Jam, etc. So when it's my turn I know I can't sing, so I rap Juicy by Biggie. I'm actually really good at rapping and killed the entire song without even reading the words. Afterward, it was just dead silence until the next song came on. After we were done everyone gave me awkward looks, except my coworker who was like, damn, I was impressed. You were all gangster with it. Maybe it was all a dream.